All right, so you want to get past all those like Epicureanism buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
Eat, drink, and be merry, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're going way beyond that today. You shared a fascinating article, and we are going to see if this ancient philosophy actually holds up in the 21st century.
Right.
So back to ancient Greece we go.
Okay.
Time to meet Epicurus and unpack his ideas about living a good life.
Okay. And a good life is really the heart of it.
Okay.
Epicurus wasn't laying out some, rigid dogma or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was really trying to figure out what truly leads to happiness and tranquility.
Okay, but I have to admit, like when I hear Epicurean,
Yeah.
I do think of indulging in, fancy food.
Sure.
And, well, maybe a bit too much of the good life.
Yeah.
Our source makes it clear that's not the whole picture, though.
Not at all. It's really about understanding
Right.
the different kinds of pleasure.
Okay. Yeah.
Think of it this way. There's the quick hit, that sugar rush when you eat a donut?
Yeah.
Epicurus called that a kinetic pleasure.
Okay. Fleeting.
Okay, so then there's that feeling after a really tough workout.
Yeah.
When your body's tired,
Yeah.
but you feel amazing.
Yes.
You pushed yourself.
Yes.
Or maybe you finally, finished that complex project you've been working on for weeks.
That's exactly what Epicurus called katastematic pleasure.
Okay.
A deeper, more lasting state of satisfaction.
Got it.
That's the kind of pleasure Epicureanism is really about.
So it's not about avoiding pleasure altogether.
Right. It's about being choosy about what kind of pleasure we're after.
Okay.
Right.
I like that.
And a big part of that is understanding what truly makes us happy and what just kind of keeps us on that hedonic treadmill.
Okay, which brings us to one of Epicurus's big ideas.
Yes.
Freedom from fear or ataraxia.
Ataraxia, yes. And he was particularly concerned with the fear of death and the fear of the gods.
Yes. Now remember,
Yeah.
this was ancient Greece.
Right.
Gods were everywhere.
Yeah.
And the afterlife was a major preoccupation.
Right.
Epicurus said,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah.
What if the gods, even if they exist, are indifferent to us?
Okay.
And death, well, it's just the end.
Yeah.
Atoms rearranging.
Right.
No soul.
Yeah.
No afterlife.
Yeah.
No divine judgment.
I mean, even today, fear holds so many of us back.
Absolutely.
Fear of failure, fear of public speaking, fear of not measuring up.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to that.
Sure.
But wouldn't accepting that there's nothing after death make this life feel kind of
That's a great question.
meaningless?
Yeah. And that's where I think Epicurus's atomism gets
Yeah.
really interesting.
Okay.
He wasn't trying to be bleak.
Right.
He thought this knowledge should be liberating. It forces you to focus on making the most of this life
Okay.
because it's the only one you get.
Yeah.
It challenges you to ask, what will I do
Right.
with this one precious life?
Yeah. It's a pretty radical shift in perspective even today.
Yes.
Like he's almost forcing us to confront our own mortality
Yeah.
and make choices accordingly.
Nah.
Okay, so no fear of death, no fear of the gods.
Right.
What about all the other stuff we worry about?
Yeah.
That's where aponia comes in, right?
Right.
The absence of pain.
Yes. Epicurus believed that minimizing pain, both physical and mental, was crucial.
Right.
But it's not about living in a bubble, avoiding
Right.
any and all discomfort.
Right, like saying no to that amazing hiking trip just because you might get a few mosquito bites.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Or avoiding that difficult conversation because it might be a little uncomfortable.
Right.
Exactly. It's more about
Yeah.
finding balance,
Yeah.
making choices that minimize unnecessary suffering
Right.
and promote well-being.
Gotcha.
It's about, choosing the walk in nature
Yeah.
over endlessly scrolling through social media, even though
Yeah.
putting the phone down might feel uncomfortable at first.
Right. Okay, so it's about being intentional with our choices.
Yes.
And that leads us right into Epicurus's ideas about desire.
Right.
He categorized them into 3 types.
Mm-hmm.
Natural and necessary.
Yes,
Natural but unnecessary.
Uh-huh.
And vain and empty.
that's right. And he believed that understanding these categories was key,
Okay.
making choices that truly lead to happiness.
All right, so let's break it down.
Okay.
Natural and necessary desires.
Right.
Pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Things like food,
Uh-huh.
shelter connection.
Yes.
The things we need to survive and thrive.
That's right.
But what about those natural but unnecessary desires?
That's where things get a bit more complicated.
Okay.
These are desires that are natural,
Oh, what?
drawn to them,
Yeah.
but not essential for happiness.
Yeah.
Think, gourmet food,
Yeah.
Luxury cars, a bigger house.
Yeah.
Things that are nice to have,
Yeah.
but not truly needed.
So this is where Epicurus starts to sound a bit more like a minimalist.
Right.
Right?
A little bit, yeah.
Like, it's not that we can't enjoy a nice meal or a new gadget.
Of course.
It's about recognizing that these things shouldn't be our primary source of happiness.
Exactly.
And then there are those desires that Epicurus called vain and empty.
Yes. These are the desires that he
Yeah.
saw as the most problematic.
Okay.
Desires for fame, power, excessive wealth.
Yeah.
They're often fueled by social pressure,
Yeah.
and they can be a bottomless pit of dissatisfaction.
So how do we know which desires are leading us toward genuine happiness?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which are just leading to
Yeah.
more wanting.
More wanting.
This feels really relevant today.
It does.
With all the pressure we face to constantly be striving for more, bigger, better.
Exactly. That's where the real work begins.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can explore further.
Okay.
What's fascinating is that Epicurus believed a lot of this came down to
Okay.
understanding the nature of reality itself,
Okay.
which brings us to his view on,
Atomism. Everything is made up of atoms and void.
that's it.
No soul, no afterlife.
Yep.
Didn't he get in trouble for this idea?
Absolutely. This was a radical idea for his time,
Right.
challenging the religious beliefs of ancient Greece.
Right.
But Epicurus saw atomism as the key
It's okay.
to overcoming fear and finding true peace of mind.
All right. So we've got this foundation now.
Okay.
Seek lasting satisfaction.
Yes.
Not just fleeting pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be ruled by fear.
Right.
Understand your desires.
Yes.
And it all ties back to this idea that we're just atoms in a void.
We are.
But how does that translate into actually living a good life?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one that Epicurus had a lot to say about.
Okay, let's dig into that then.
To do it.
So we've talked about atoms and avoiding pain and embracing the right kinds of pleasure.
Hmm.
But how do we actually live like an Epicurean in the 21st century?
Right.
Where do we even begin?
Well, what's funny,
Yeah.
Epicurus actually kind of anticipated that question.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't just a philosopher in an ivory tower,
Right.
you know. He actually founded a whole community
Oh, wow.
based on these principles.
Interesting.
And one of his key pieces of advice
Yeah.
was to start small.
Okay, so no need to like ditch all of our possessions and run off to a commune just yet.
Not unless that truly brings you
Right.
lasting satisfaction,
Oh,
of course.
of course.
But you're right.
Yeah.
It's about finding balance,
Yeah.
making gradual changes.
Right.
You know, you don't have to become a sage overnight.
Right.
Epicurus believed it was all about
Yeah.
building good habits,
Okay.
step by step.
So what's a good baby step for someone wanting to kind of dip their toes into Epicureanism?
Remember how we talked about being choosy
Yeah.
about our pleasures?
Yeah.
Maybe start by being more mindful
Oh.
about what you consume.
Okay.
And I don't just mean food.
Right.
Think about the information you take and
Yeah.
the media you watch.
Yeah.
Even your own thoughts.
So instead of like mindlessly scrolling through social media for an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe you choose to spend that time talking to a friend or reading a book that challenges you.
Right. Or like
Yeah.
going for a walk or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're starting to make those choices
Yeah.
based not on fleeting gratification,
Right.
but on what you know
Yeah.
will bring a more enduring sense of satisfaction.
Yeah. I like that.
It's like choosing a home-cooked meal
Yeah.
with friends
Yeah.
over another night of takeout and Netflix.
Right.
Both are pleasurable,
Sure.
but one nourishes you
Yeah.
on a deeper level.
That's a great analogy.
Thank you.
But it's not always easy to make those choices right.
Right.
Like sometimes the quick hit of dopamine from that social media scroll is just
Oh, yeah.
so tempting.
No.
What about our desires in general?
Yes.
How do we actually tame those?
Right.
Especially the ones that Epicurus called vain and empty.
Right.
Do we just meditate on them and hope they go away?
Well, meditation can definitely help.
Yeah.
But Epicurus had some
Okay.
other very practical advice.
Okay.
Remember the 3 categories of desire.
Uh-huh.
He said we need to really examine our desires
Okay.
and ask ourselves,
Yeah.
is this desire truly serving me?
Right.
Or is it leading me down a path of dissatisfaction and frustration?
So when I feel that urge to buy a new car, even though mine is perfectly fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to pause and ask myself,
Yeah.
is this really going to make me happier?
Right.
Or is it coming from a place of comparison or
Yeah.
trying to keep up with some image I have in my head?
Ex-
Epicurus would say that a lot of those vain and empty desires,
yeah.
stem from a sense of lack, from insecurity.
Right.
We think that if we just get that promotion,
Right.
buy that bigger house,
Yeah.
then we'll finally be happy.
Right.
But it's a trap.
So it's not just about managing our desires. It's about
Yeah.
addressing the root of those desires.
Exactly.
Maybe that means working on my self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
cultivating a sense of gratitude for what I already have.
Yes. And that's where another key piece
Okay.
of Epicurean wisdom comes in.
Okay.
The importance of friendship and community.
Yeah, Epicurus really emphasized that, didn't he?
He did.
Like, he wasn't some solitary sage meditating on a mountaintop.
No, he wasn't.
He had his community, his friends.
Exactly. He saw friendship as not just a source of pleasure,
Right.
but as a source of support and security.
Right.
A true necessity, not a luxury.
And what's fascinating is that modern psychology backs this up.
It does.
Like, we know social connection is crucial for our well-being. So if I'm trying to live more like an Epicurean,
Yeah.
I should be prioritizing those relationships that bring me joy and support.
Yes.
Make time for my friends, find my people.
Exactly. Join a club.
Yeah.
Volunteer, reconnect with old friends.
Right.
And remember, it's not just about quantity.
Yeah.
It's about quality.
Right.
It's about being present, listening deeply,
Yeah.
offering support, cultivating those bonds that truly nourish your soul.
Okay, so we've got mindfulness about our pleasures,
Mhm.
managing our desires,
Yes.
nurturing our friendships.
Mhm.
What about this whole idea of simple living?
Right.
Is Epicureanism all about, like, giving up our possessions and living in a tiny house?
Well, Epicurus did believe
Okay.
that a modest lifestyle was key to happiness.
Yeah.
He saw excessive desire
Yeah.
as a major source of suffering.
Right.
But it's not about deprivation.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that true wealth
Yeah.
isn't measured in material possessions,
Yeah.
but in contentment and peace of mind.
Yeah. It's funny. It almost sounds like he was anticipating the whole minimalism movement.
A little bit, yeah,
Like, declutter your space, declutter your mind.
exactly. And it's not just about physical possessions.
Right.
It's about simplifying our lives in general.
Right.
Maybe it's cutting back on unnecessary commitments,
Yeah.
creating more space in your schedule,
Mm-hmm.
learning to say no to things that drain your energy.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, right?
It is.
Enjoying the good things in life without letting them define your worth or happiness.
Exactly.
But what about the fear?
Right.
How do we deal with that?
Yeah,
Epicurus had some pretty radical ideas about death and the gods.
he did.
But what about all those everyday fears that hold us back?
Well, for Epicurus, a lot of that stemmed from
Okay.
a misunderstanding of reality itself.
Okay. Okay, so we left off talking about fear.
Yeah.
Epicurus had some pretty radical ideas about death.
He did.
But what about all those everyday fears that we face? You know, fear of failure, fear of rejection, even fear of missing out. Yes. That seems like a very 21st century fear.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He would probably say that all of those are rooted
Okay.
in the same misconception,
Okay.
that happiness is found outside ourselves
Right?
in achievements, possessions, other people's approval.
Right back to the idea that it's not about having, it's about being.
Exactly.
But easier said than done right.
It is, yeah.
How do we actually do that?
Well, think about his atomism.
Yeah.
Everything is atoms and void.
Right.
No soul, no afterlife.
Yeah.
For him, that wasn't a depressing thought.
Right.
It was empowering.
Okay.
It meant this life is all we've got.
Okay.
So what are we going to do with it?
Right.
Are we going to let fear dictate our choices?
Yeah.
Or are we going to choose to live fully,
Yeah.
even if it means feeling some discomfort along the way?
It's like he's saying, don't waste your precious time and energy
Yeah.
on things you can't control.
Exactly.
Focus on what you can control, your actions. Your thoughts, your responses to whatever life throws at you.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's where the real freedom lies.
Right.
It's not about never feeling fear.
Right.
It's about not letting fear be in the driver's seat.
Okay. I can see how that ties into ataraxia. That
Yes.
state of tranquility
Mm-hmm.
Epicurus talked about.
Yes.
It's not about suppressing our emotions
Yes.
or pretending everything is fine.
No.
It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace
Yes.
that allows us to kind of weather those storms.
I love that image.
Yeah.
Weathering the storms.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, life is going to throw storms our way.
Right.
The question is, how do we respond?
So it's not that an Epicurean never feels fear or anxiety.
Right?
They just don't let it rule their lives.
Exactly.
They choose to face those fears head on.
I think that's one of the most valuable takeaways
Yeah.
from Epicureanism.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy that doesn't shy away from the difficult parts of life.
Right.
It acknowledges pain, fear loss,
Yeah.
but it offers a framework
Yeah.
for navigating those challenges with grace and resilience.
So we've talked about mindfulness, managing our desires, nurturing our friendships,
Mm-hmm.
embracing simplicity, facing our fears.
Yeah,
It feels like we've covered a lot of ground here.
we have.
Is there anything else you think is essential?
You know, one thing that really stands out to me
Yeah.
is his emphasis on self-sufficiency.
Okay.
Not in the sense of becoming a hermit,
Right.
but in the sense of cultivating
Yeah.
inner strength and resilience.
So not being overly dependent on external things
Exactly.
for our happiness.
Yes,
Possession, status, other people's approval.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's about developing a sense of inner stability,
Okay.
knowing that even when things are tough,
Yeah.
even when life throws curveballs,
Yeah.
we have the resources within ourselves to cope,
Right.
to adapt, to find our way back to that state of equilibrium.
Which is, I think, ultimately what Epicurus is all about. Finding that place of balance,
Yes.
of peace, of ataraxia amidst the chaos of life.
Yes. And it's not a destination.
Right?
It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's something we cultivate day by day, choice by choice.
It's like Epicurus wasn't handing us a rule book.
Right.
He was giving us a compass.
I love that.
Yeah.
A comforting.
A way to navigate this crazy, beautiful, messy thing called life.
Yes. And you know what's really cool is that even though he was living over 2,000 years ago,
Yeah.
so much of what he had to say
Yeah.
feels incredibly relevant
It does.
to our lives today.
And like maybe human nature hasn't changed all that much after all.
Maybe not.
We're still grappling with the same big questions, the
Mhm.
same desires, the same fears.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, this ancient philosophy can offer some timeless wisdom
Absolutely.
to help us find our way.
I think so. And that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get to explore these ideas.
Yeah.
See what resonates.
Yeah.
What challenges us, what we
Yeah.
can take away
Right.
and apply to our own lives.
So to our listener,
Yes.
if you're feeling inspired to explore Epicureanism further,
Uh-huh.
we encourage you to do so.
Please do.
Read Epicurus's own words.
Yes.
Connect with other people who are studying his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, experiment.
Yes.
See what happens when you start to integrate some of these principles into your own life.
Exactly, because ultimately the best way to understand any philosophy
Yeah.
is to live it.
And who knows, maybe you'll find that an ancient Greek philosopher has some surprisingly relevant advice
I think so.
for navigating the complexities of modern life.
I have a feeling Epicurus would be thrilled to know
Yeah.
that people are still engaging with his ideas
Right.
all these centuries later.
I bet he would.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
We've explored the core tenets of Epicureanism,
We have.
tackled some of the criticisms,
Mhm.
and even ventured into some practical applications.
Yeah. But as we always say, this is just the beginning.
The real journey starts now.
Exactly. So go forth, dear listener, and live a good life.
Live a good life.
A life that's full of joy, meaning, and connection.
Yes.
And hey, maybe even a little bit of catastematic pleasure along the way.
I'll raise a glass to that.
Until next time, fellow knowledge seekers, keep diving deep.